So you want to stop being inauthentic. There's a lot of things that actually prevent you from the full, honest, and truthful expression of who you actually are. And in this video, I'm going to go through a bunch of the blocks that prevent you from doing that and being that version of you, and how to actually overcome those blocks. So the first point that I have here is trauma. And let's get into some sub-points here. This is basically past wounds, troubling experiences like disapproval and rejection, especially like early in life, which is something that we all basically face, and like the pain of just feeling rejected and not fully seen and like fully cared for emotionally, the feeling of not being in an emotionally safe environment with emotionally safe people. Another one is stored energies and tensions in the body. If you look at your body throughout the day, it's always in these weird holding patterns of like raised shoulders, tense gut, contractions in the heart. There's constrictions and just muscles fighting other muscles. This is also just a sign of, stored energy and like repressed things, literally stuck in your body. Suppression and repression and just emotional disconnection from yourself. Moving on is just fears, the actual fear of rejection, the continuous fear of being disapproved, right? People pleasing, things like this. This is all caused by fear. Avoidance of conflict, again, caused by fear. Suppressing your true opinions and needs. You're always too scared. You're minimizing yourself. You're not inhabiting yourself. You don't feel safe to be in your own body, to occupy the space that you occupy just by existing. Right? You minimize yourself. You shrink yourself. Right? So the next point, this is a very key point, is the ego and a lack of spiritual development. Because the truth is that you're trying to authentically express yourself, but what you call yourself isn't really what you think you are. The ego, the identification, is actually an illusion. It's something that needs to be investigated, and actually the ego is built upon trauma. It's built upon the avoidance of fears and pains and the fear of impermanence, and I'll just leave it at that. And your ego, right, all these structures that build up your sense of separate self have to start to dismantle so that you can express yourself more openly, because the ego is a restrictive, constrictive, and contracting force that creates a lot of suffering in your life. It's built on fear, and it's a lot of this kind of stuff that needs to be processed and let go so that you can express yourself more openly. Counterintuitively, when you let go of yourself, you're able to actually express yourself more easily. Right? It's like you are getting in your own way. Parts of you are getting in your own way continuously. So the ego is basically identification with thought and emotion, our psychological, emotional conditioning. Right? And it's basically held in place because there's no real reflection or awareness being shined back at yourself. This is kind of what holds it there. Because all this stuff that the ego is formed around, like thoughts, emotions, all these psychological, emotional patterns, are kind of like stuck together, and your awareness kind of starts to dissolve these patterns. The continuous applying of awareness heals it and opens you up. There's no real authentic expression without spiritual development, without an opening of your body, an inhabiting of your body, a transcendence of the sense of separate self and ego. Right? Next on the spiritual development point is this disconnection from direct experience and really not realizing your true nature as pure consciousness. We'll start with the direct experience component. We're always lost in thoughts. We're always like stuck in the mind, right? And we're not really using it with awareness. It's very mechanical and unconscious. It's kind of just you're lost in the thought stream, one thought after another thought after another thought. And you're not very aware, right? You're not fully awake and lucid in the midst of your own thoughts. You're just identified with them in this mechanical, unconscious, machine-like way, right? And this disconnects you from your actual experience of life, the felt experience, your direct sense of awareness and connection to the present moment, right? This identification with thought and emotion, really. So this disconnection from experience right now, from the present experience, actually makes you inauthentic. So this whole process of being more authentic is far more complicated than a lot of people actually really portray it to be. This has a lot to do with really raising your consciousness as a human and really opening yourself up to pretty large degrees and transcending the ego. as well as going through a lot of repressed aspects that you want to just avoid. Right, so the next one is actually not realizing yourself as pure consciousness that is not separate from anything. Right, not realizing your true nature, the true self, the one awareness that we actually all share. This is essential for really expressing yourself authentically, because how are you supposed to express yourself authentically when you don't even know what you really are? Right? When you're living from an illusion called the ego, you're stuck in egoic consciousness, you're stuck in delusion, you're stuck in falsehood. Authenticity is an honest and truthful expression of who you are, and you literally cannot be authentic without this component, without beginning to move past the ego, without transcending and including the ego. Right, moving beyond its limitations, but learning all the stuff that you learn from experiencing yourself as an ego, like being able to function in the world and clean your room and make yourself dinner. So this higher spiritual development is completely needed. Right, I'm not asking you to believe anything I say. All this stuff can actually be directly verified by you. It's not a matter of just believing what Lucas says and then doing whatever. This is actually based off of something you can directly become conscious of. So what do you do? How do you start overcoming these blocks? How do you start overcoming all this stuff? I have a whole list of points that's all around clearing up your emotions, clearing up your psychology, being well within your body. Right? So the first one is practicing mindfulness meditation, structuring meditation into your daily life. You need to shine awareness back on yourself, because you're always giving your attention to everything else. It's sucking up your attention. You're always focused on the external world. You don't give awareness to yourself, the awareness that you actually deserve, the awareness that you need to be well, right? You heard me right. You need it to be well. Without actually shining attention back on yourself, you will be sick. Right? You need to inhabit your body, inhabit the space that you occupy in the world, fully embodying it with consciousness. Next is just regular self-reflection and journaling, right? Use this, right, and really every point I have on this list to connect to yourself. Every single aspect, every single point I have on this list is a self-connecting point, right? It brings you closer to your experience of who you actually are, right? And when you're inauthentic, you're disconnected from that, right? When you're inauthentic, there's a sense of disassociation from who you are. It's not really true. It's not really real. It's like artificial. It's false. So regular self-reflection and journaling, right? Every single day, even just for a couple minutes, right? Setting and maintaining personal boundaries, not letting people kind of walk on you, right? And even just having boundaries with, let's say, not even just people, but your environment. Setting up your environment in a way so your environment doesn't manipulate you. That might mean putting your phone away, cutting out distractions, not always being distracted by the TV or junk food or anything like that. Having boundaries with entertainment, right? Having boundaries with things that suck up your energy, right? Like zoning out into mindless scrolling on Instagram, right? This sucks up your energy. It's not, how can you authentically express yourself when all your energy is being sucked away habitually? Right? Next is just engaging in deep, honest communication when you're interacting with others, right? Authentic expression is open. It's honest. It slowly builds a sense of trust and safety in the connection that you have. There's an embracing of vulnerability, right? And this embracing of vulnerability and opening yourself up to vulnerability allows you to really express your true self without the fear of judgment, right? And you really have to learn how to be vulnerable, how to be intimate with your experience under all conditions, regardless of if people reject you or not, right? So even just embracing the pain of being rejected as well, not avoiding the experience of rejection, not avoiding disapproval, but recognizing that this is just a part of life. Not everyone is going to approve of you, and that it just doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter if they approve of you or not. Everyone is going to have their opinions of you, and no one's going to fully approve of you. So why does it even matter? Next is actually just pursuing continuous learning and self-education, expanding your knowledge and skills, and really allowing yourself to evolve. right? Studying hundreds of perspectives, actually learning a lot of things, studying science and physics and biology, and then spirituality and Hinduism and Buddhism and Christianity and psychology and psychotherapy, and just having a bunch of perspectives, right? Expanding the amount of, contents that exist in your mind. Right? Next is just cultivating self-compassion and self-acceptance. In order to really be authentic, there needs to be a degree of acceptance to the present experience and yourself, and a sense of compassion towards the experience that you actually find yourself in. So accepting yourself basically as you are without the need for external validation. Learn to self-validate. Right? This is just going to strengthen your integrity and your overall sense of security, which allows you to be more authentic, right? So learning to actually self-validate and live a life based off your own values and getting clear about what your own values really are, and not just being stuck living according to the judgments of literally anyone else, because they don't really matter very much, right? So speaking of values, aligning your actions with your core values, aligning your relationships with what really matters to you, aligning your daily habits with your core values, aligning your career with your core values, right? Health, career, relationships, aligning all of this with your core values. Right? This basically, again, strengthens your integrity, strengthens your authenticity, right? Because you're actually slowly becoming more connected and grounded to yourself, and your actions are aligning with that. It's like your life is aligned now. Another good point is to just, of course, you've heard this one before, take steps outside of your comfort zone rather than being habitually scared all the time. Humans are very dominated by fear, but this is an illusion. This is a bunch of bullshit that our mind makes up. Instead, really just learn to act despite the experience of being afraid. This is what courage is. It's basically the ability to act regardless of whether or not you're afraid. Next is just spending time in nature. Nature has this sort of mental clarifying and grounding effect, and it really helps you to just connect to yourself. There's a sort of healing and serenading almost aspect to being in nature. Right? So just really allow yourself to just spend time in nature, and that's it. Very simple. Right? It's just honestly needed to be well. Exercise, like daily exercise, moving your body, having a sense of energy and vitality. Right? This is needed. Stretching. Overall, just taking care of the body, eating the right foods, diets, a well-balanced diet, a lot of fruits and vegetables, a lot of water, cutting out junk food and fast food and, chips, and not over-consuming a lot of meat as well. Right? Not the over-consumption of meat. You can have a bit if you want, but over-consuming it, it actually leaves you quite heavy. The energy levels of meat are pretty low. Right? There's the physical makeup of the food that you eat, and there's the energetic makeup of the food that you eat. And the vibration or the energy of meat is quite low relative to fruits and vegetables. Right? But making sure that you eat a diet that actually works with you, because a lot of people have different health conditions, and people have a lot of people suffer from chronic illness as well. They have certain parasites that live in their gut that feed off of certain foods, and really, you need to heal your body, right? Having heavy metal detox in your life as well, because we're loaded with heavy metals as well. How can you really authentically express yourself when your whole body is this toxic, heavy metal infested place, right? Having heavy metal detox smoothies and protocols in your life, and eating foods that are low in heavy metals, not cooking with pots and pans that have a bunch of toxic crap on them as well. Not drinking tap water, having actual filtered water, right? Because the tap water is full of heavy metals, right? A lot of various foods in our modern world are full of heavy metals. It's in our air as well, because we pollute so much and we don't even care. And we're just kind of poisoning ourselves. Speaking of the air and the environment, have a clean physical environment, right? Even in your own room, right? Organize it, vacuum it, dust it, make sure that you can be in it, and it's not just overwhelmed with clutter and there's stuff on the floor and you can't walk. Have stuff in your environment that helps this. Buy a meditation cushion, put it in your room so you look at it and oh, I gotta meditate. Buy some books, Put them on a shelf so you know, yeah, I got to read these books, right? Have some kind of tracker as well so you can keep track of like, you know, oh, these are some of the habits I got to do. I got to stretch today. Oh, I got to exercise, right? You check it off as you go so you can hold yourself accountable. Next is just seeking mentorship for personal growth, actually getting help from someone who's been doing this work for many, many years. This is a massive shortcut. This is literally going to shortcut you years of failure and suffering and confusion. It's like you just go right to the answers. All right, so that's it for this video. I do offer one-to-one coaching. You can apply to work with me. Link is in the pinned comment and the description. Take it easy.